Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. About to get crushed here, it looks like, by an incoming asteroid or something there. But so that's to help you stay curious today, as Marty Winkle and I kick off another great week of talking to so many friends and space lovers out there. Marty, of course, worked on the Grumman Lunar Module, and he's over on the Streamlabs console. He also worked 30 years for the shuttle program on those wonderful SSME engines. Marty, how are you? It looks like those SSME engines might be spared down the road if SLS doesn't go the way it's supposed to.
Oh, I'm doing okay, Mark, but I haven't heard about that, so maybe we'll be curious about that.
Yeah, we'll stay curious about that. Today we've got some news that we're going to hit you up with. Some news about asteroids, for example. How many, Marty, just how many Earth uh, threatening asteroids do you think might be floating around the vicinity of the Earth and the Moon?
Mark, I have no idea. I can see more than one.
Yeah, more than one. And the sky's falling constantly now. We're going to learn a little bit about that as I'm going to review some headline news for you today. And Dave Stengy's watching with Mia. Hi there, little Mia. How you doing, honey? Hope you're looking up at the stars with Grandpa up there on a nice, cool night. The moon's going to be up there, Mia. Go out there and say hi and get some moonshine tonight with Grandpa up there. So, well, we got going to have a little bit of stargazing, not my usual Monday stargazing in your backyard, but some breaking news that's happening in the world today. And Dave Stange mentioned it on the preview, wanting to know if the Space Launch System is going to be affected by Boeing layoffs that have been announced. And what is the inside news to some of the people I talked to? And I consider this being the first major step in the government moving away from going to the moon and turning it over to SpaceX and Blue Origin. What's happened is there's been an announced layoffs. There's a government law, the Warren Act, I believe it is, that you have to announce 60 days in advance, Marty, any layoffs. And they've announced that over maybe up to 800 Boeing workers working on the core stage of the Space Launch System. That's the gas tank, okay? The big orange gas tank working. That they're going to be laid off. And this might doom the Space Launch System, but it might not doom Artemis, okay? And they still may launch STS-LS3 since all of it's pretty much built. And I think most of it's over to VAB, Marty. So we'll keep tabs on that as I talk to some of the behind the scenes people that I know. But they never have liked the Space Launch System. In fact, somebody told me today that you can launch 16 Starlink spaceships with their big booster to every one Artemis SLS. The SLS is going to cost $5 billion to launch it again, and apparently that's about 16. That's money's worth 16 starships being launched. So we'll see how that pans out. A lot of this stuff we're going to show you today is current events news, but the moon is 12 days old, Marty. So that means it's just 2 days before full, to talk like an amateur astronomer. So these are not good nights that amateur astronomers would go out and see nebula and galaxies with their telescopes because they're washed out by the moonlight. But you can see the planet Venus, and Saturn's right below it. Brilliant Venus is in the west. Brilliant Jupiter's directly overhead, and red brilliant Mars is in the other horizon in the east, an hour or so after sunset. So go out and check them out like we've been telling you to for a few months out there. And the full moon is on Wednesday. And here's your full moons of 2025 and some nice artwork. The full moon of February is called the snow moon. And these are names derived by Native American tribes and cultures around the world. But universally, they call it the snow moon. Okay, and because there's usually a lot of snow in February, which is hard to fathom on an 84-degree day here in middle of Florida, Marty. But the snow moon is the full moon of February. That'll be Wednesday. And it's also called things like the snapping branch moon because ice falls and snaps tree branches and things like that. So one day I'm going to create my own full moons based on modern sayings. Okay, the wolf moon in January is because the wolves were hungry and they were crying, they were baying for food in the middle of the night. The full moon of March is going to be the worm moon because they saw worms coming out of the ground and birds after them as the springtime was thawing everything out. So, and the pink moon, you wonder, where do they get the pink moon for April? Pink moon is for the phlox. The flower is like a carpet that covers landscapes, and it was everywhere in North America, apparently. So there's our full moons, and there's our full moons of the month, and Wednesday will be the snow moon. Well, let me say happy birthday. I didn't load a picture up. Garrett Reisman, happy 57th birthday to you. I have met him at the Astronaut Hall of Fame. Okay, he is a diminutive man, like about 5'4". Happy 57th birthday, born in Morristown, New Jersey on February 10th, 1968. 2 International Space Station expeditions he's been on for a total of 107 days. 3 spacewalks. He was a big fan of Stephen Colbert and a member of the Colbert universe. He also is childhood friends with actress Jane Krakowski. Jane was a part of the 30 Rock sitcom, and also she hosts a Name That Tune type of show on TV. And Reisman also is half of the Two Funny Astronauts podcast with Mike Massimino, who is funny on the Big Bang Theory when you see him on there on the space station. So that's one reason why I put it up there. A fellow podcaster, Garrett Reisman, is 57 years old today, 107 days in space. Where did he go to college? He was involved with SpaceX for a while, and he went to the University of Pennsylvania, okay, and California Institute of Technology. So, okay, let's get off to some news here. Let's talk about this. Here are our Starlink satellites, Marty. And they're nothing more than cell towers in the sky. That's how you got to think about it when they're launching. They first were launching 50 or so, they being SpaceX, from Vandenberg and, of course, Space Force Cape Canaveral over here. There they are shown with little relay signs on the bottom there. They're in continuous orbit so that they keep passing over a same plot of land on Earth continuously. There's one behind it and another one behind it. Well, what is happening is in January alone, more than 120 Starlink satellites deorbited. Okay, since 2018, SpaceX has placed more than 7,000 Starlink satellites in orbit. And what's happening is the early version of these satellites are starting to retire out, the first generation, to make way for the newer models. More than 500 of the 4,700 Gen 1 Starlinks have now re-entered the atmosphere. Okay. And when they re-enter, they disintegrate before hitting the ground, evaporating metallic vapors into the atmosphere. So we have NASA aircraft that are flying over Alaska to collect aerosols. 10% of the particles contain aluminum and other metals from the burn up of these satellites, all right? So what we're observing is a giant uncontrolled experiment in atmospheric chemistry. All right. This is a great person, Jonathan McDowell. He's been tracking satellites since the 80s. One of the world's experts of what is up there and what they're doing. And like, need to get Jonathan on our show sometime when we get doing Google Meets again. But this is an uncontrolled experiment in our atmosphere dealing with chemistry. All right. The demise of one Starlink satellite produces about 66 pounds of aluminum oxide, a compound that eats away at the ozone layer. Now, Marty and I remember in the 60s, I mean the 70s, when aerosols were banned because of the materials in them was depleting the ozone layer, and it has worked. The ozone layer did come back. But a new study finds these oxides have increased eightfold in the last 5 years. The recent surge is increasing the pollution even more. All right. Now you might see a streak. Most of us will probably now see a streak like this one go into the across the sky. The picture in the upper left there. But this is a graph that was on space weather depicting how they're increasing per day to a level of about 3 a week. All right. And the satellites can enter anywhere, though they have a controlled system on there to deorbit them. It's just a matter of time when one of those is going to crash through somebody's house or business or something. At least I think so. Personal opinion there. So Starlinks are falling to the ground. Now the new generation are bigger and might be staying up there longer, but these were made to come back down. Over 7,000 of them orbiting right now. And a license to orbit another 25,000, Marty. Amazing. All right. 10 humans orbiting the Earth right now. Only 622 in entire history of the world. And Expedition 72 is almost 2/3 of the way through. We have got, of course, Sonny and Butch constantly in the news of being stranded up there. They're not stranded. Astronauts want to be in space. That's why they're astronauts. So they're living a bonus time they never expected. And yes, is it inconvenient for family and friends on the Earth? Yes, it is. But they're our friends and family to an astronaut. And look at how many few there are. 622 and since 1961. That's such a low number, in my opinion. But what's going to happen? Nick Hague and the Russian there are going to come back on Crew Dragon 9 about the end of March, we think, with Sonny and Butch. All right, but we need to get Crew Dragon 10 up there first. And there is some efforting, particularly a political maneuver, I believe, to get them back quicker but I don't see the need for that, and I'm not going to get into all that. If they come back earlier and it works out, that's just fine with me. So, but we have 3 Chinese, 3 Russian, and 4 Americans orbiting the Earth right now. And Sonny and Butch did a spacewalk last week, Marty, and they hadn't planned to do the spacewalk. But that spacewalk put Sonny up there. She made history during last week's spacewalk. All right, let's show a picture of her there. She surpassed former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson's record for total spacewalking time by a female astronaut. She now has 62 hours, 4th on the NASA all-time list. I think Peggy had about 60 hours. Peggy's going back up to space in May on a Starliner that's supposed to go up after not Starliner, on a Dragon that's supposed to be after Dragon 10 on another Axiom mission. She's already commanded one Axiom mission. So while she was on that spacewalk, amateur astronomers do this a lot. Actually, she took that selfie of herself there, which went viral. That's a picture of her helmet, looking in the helmet. And then there she is working with a drill or something. they they removed some micrometeorite impact experiments, and then they moved some equipment around. There's always maintenance to do, and it takes it outside the space station to do it, changing evaporation units. Different things wear out that they have to replace. So during this spacewalk, there was a space photographer in the United Kingdom that took a picture of her on the end of a tethered arm doing her spacewalk, and here it is. This is by oh, I forgot the person's name there. It's covered up there, but this is through a modest telescope, maybe about a 12-inch telescope, and there's amateurs out there that have it perfected. This is taken from somebody's backyard, basically. The International Space Station, the arrow on the left points to the robotic arm that Sonny's at the end of, and Butch is in the area in there on his spacewalk in the darkness there. So incredible, incredible. It's going 17,500 miles an hour. Okay, the Earth is moving 1,200 miles an hour in the same direction. All kinds of things come into play. As this was in Oxford, UK, on January 30th, on the spacewalk that they did. Actually, I think that's the wrong date. The spacewalk was actually last week. So amazing. And did you know that? Stay curious lovers out there. Doug Forrest, did you know people are taking pictures of the space station with the Crew Dragons attached over there, and on the other end is the Soyuz spacecraft. Let me clear my throat here. With some good old tang there. Boy, the pollen is really kicking up here in the middle of February. Cars are covered with it. All right, let's get my glasses on here so I can. But that's an astounding image, and amateurs are doing this all the time, keeping an eye on the International Space Station. Look at it there. Just the lighting was just perfect. Okay, we're going to go to that. So Sonny and Butch are just fine. They'll be back safely, probably by April, I would think. Okay. Next up on our headline news today. Excuse me. I get all kinds of feeds like you do on your news, mostly getting my news on my hand, on my smart tablet or my phone right now. And so I see things like this. Spacecraft finds a positively enormous planet 12 times Jupiter's mass. And Steve Jokums goes, what's that all about? Hi, Steve. And Dean Babcock's here. Cliff Watson, Tom Celentano, Robert Law, Mark Thell. Thank you all for watching today, and Carlton Bailey. So you see headlines like this, enormous planet, 12 times Jupiter's mass. Well, how did the spacecraft find it? All right, it's 244 light years away. How do they know it's 12 times more massive than Jupiter? When the light that left it was in the 1800s. Well, there's a spacecraft called Gaia that's a European Space Agency, GAIA. Gaia is a mythological Mother Earth figure. And this spacecraft has been recently retired, but they keep going through the data. The data of these spacecraft is amazing. It takes decades to analyze it all. Well, they found an exoplanet. All right, and let's get the words up there. An exoplanet that is so huge that it is it's such an exciting tip of the iceberg discovery, because this is a planet that is going around a brown dwarf that's not quite a planet or a star. I'm not going to explain all that. And they're going around another star that's smaller than our sun. All right. So but this planet is considered a super Jupiter, relatively cold, going around the star every 570 days. All right. And we're finding more and more stars this big. But we have found over 5,800 planets orbiting the nearest 2,000 stars. And if there are billions of stars in our Milky Way galaxy, that's right, there are trillions of planets orbiting those billions of stars, as we're finding out that planets are very normal. So how do you find out a planet? You can't see it, but the light is so dim, and telescopes aren't, even the Webb telescope won't do that yet. But wobbling stars reveal the hidden companions in a telescope's data. And that wobbling star looks like this. Okay. Uh, Astrometry. Okay. You basically have a large object like the sun is wobbled back and forth. Our star by Jupiter and the other planets, gravity pushing it. And when you analyze this with these satellite telescopes over time, the position at the bottom is you see a pattern, and that pattern reveals a lot of physics, velocity, when you know the distance of an object and the speed it's going and so forth like that. So we're finding these things. We're trying to figure out, some of them have atmospheres to them. We know that because some pass in front of the star. And when that happens, the telescope instruments can actually see like a light bulb behind a curtain. You can see through it and tell what things are made of on there. So advances every week I am seeing on this and that is discovered orbiting a nearby star, and we've accumulated a lot of Earth type of exoplanets. Earth like meaning they're rocky bodies and they have an atmosphere around them. Some even have water vapor on them. Well, something else in the news today: the Hubble discovers a bullseye. All right, that was a headline. Hubble discovers a bullseye. This is a galaxy right here, aptly named the Bullseye Galaxy. It's 2.5 times the size of our Milky Way, has 9 rings, 6 more than any known galaxy. And what has happened here? Well, they call it a lucky discovery. All right. And what they see is, over 50 million years ago, Marty, you see the blue little blob behind the spiral bullseye on the left? That blue, that's a galaxy. And guess what? About the time of the dinosaurs, that galaxy plowed through this other galaxy, twice the size of the Milky Way, and it went right through it. And the gravitational attraction stuff created this bullseye. So the blue galaxy in the back is in the background, and it went through this galaxy. Now, galactic collisions occur frequently in the universe, but the researchers highlight how rare it is for one galaxy to pass directly through the center of the other. The blue dwarf galaxy not only left behind 8 ripples of star-filled rings similar to those formed when a rock breaks the surface of a pond, but also triggered new regions of star formation. So I think you can see that ripples of a pond as a galaxy far, far away is trucking through the universe, smashing into another one. And it's incredible that this happened in recent time frame, that the dinosaurs would be living. 500 million years ago is, or 100 million years ago is very recent history in terms of the galactic scale of billions of years. And we think the universe is about 15 billion years old when the Big Bang happened. But we're going to see another discovery that challenges even everything about what we know about the Big Bang, some of the Hubble constants of Edmund Hubble, that the universe is moving at the same direction and same speed, in different directions, at the same speed. Every week there's headlines challenging these things, Marty. And I just pulled one out of the hat there, that another one that we'll talk about, a Hubble and a Webb discovery here in a few minutes, or another Webb discovery. Yeah, I should have put them back to back, but I didn't. Stay tuned for a Webb discovery about the early universe that changed our thinking already about that. Well, I want to spend a little time on near Earth objects, okay? Like this one, about to crash in and do some devastation, depending how big it is. It could be a quarter mile across or it could be 100 miles across. You can't, there's no scale in this picture to tell you that. But the headline I saw, NASA spotted a big asteroid that may hit Earth. What you should know. Okay, what I should know about that, all right? Like, wait a minute. Well, how many near Earth asteroids are there, you ask, that I need to worry about it? Well, glad you asked. On this date, February 10th, 2025, there are 2,349 potentially hazardous asteroids that we're keeping track of with a network of satellites that want to find that planet killer, all right? The Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. Yep, that's the thing. Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System is a global network of telescopes funded by NASA to find Earth-threatening objects. All right, and they spotted one that has a 1% chance of hitting Earth in 2032. All right. But as these objects get closer or their orbit is more refined for that, a little perturbation can knock them off. Now, what you're looking at here on this chart are a date. Let's take today's date. I didn't print that out, the 10th of February. 11.3 lunar diameters at a velocity of 9.2, it looks like, or a 12.6 kilometers per second is a lost my line there, is a 19 is a 20 is what a 20 is a 26 meter object, right? 26 meters is about a yard. Okay, so that's about 90 feet, something like that. So these aren't very big, and it's amazing that these telescopes can pick them up. The one over Chelyabinsk, Russia, was maybe 200 feet across. The asteroid that hit Arizona crater in northern Arizona 50,000 years ago was only 130 to 300 feet across, half a football field. So they don't have to be very big. Any news on the Space Forces? Yep, we got our Space Forces are doing good. Hello, everyone from Alexandria. Thank you, Virginia. Thank you, USSLKA. So, these threats are real. We keep track of them. Occasionally, there's some that come as close as the moon. That's a lunar diameter. Look at the one on February 5th at the top that came 0.8 lunar diameters. That means that went in between the Earth and the moon, about 200,000 miles away. It was 14 meters in diameter. Okay, that's 45 feet across. All right, and but it missed us. But if that had hit us at 45 feet across, it could do some impact damage. 100 feet across would destroy a city the size of Kansas City. Or you look at Meteor Crater out in Arizona and see what how good things would survive if that baby hit in the center of a metropolitan area. So there's a thing called the Torino scale, Torino. Here's the math. This is a method of categorizing the impact hazard associated with near-Earth objects such as asteroids and comets. It is intended as a communication tool for astronomers and the public to assess the seriousness of the collision predictions by combining probability statistics and known kinetic damage potentials into a single threat unit in like a earthquake scale or a hurricane scale. It goes from 0 to 1. 0 to 10, with 10 being, we're dead, to 1 or 2 being a threat that could cause damage. So there you have some of the math. There's some of you mathematical people on the rating up there. and it's all clear as science there to everybody. So it's a real thing to assess the threat of these objects. Now, this object is not a threat to us, but we went and visited this asteroid that is only 900, it's a quarter mile across, about 1,200 feet across, okay? So take four football fields if you're watching the Super Bowl yesterday, and this is called Bennu, and we brought back a piece of Bennu, okay, a year and a half ago. OSIRIS-REx was the spacecraft that sampled and brought it back, the samples, into a clean room on September 24th, 2023. So a year and a half ago, we've analyzed this. This is at 1,200 feet across, it still weighs 74 million tons. But they think like the gravity's so little, you could like carve your way through it, dig your way through it, Marty, with your hands. Anyway, it is shaped kind of like this, oddball. Here is the scientific team bringing back the capsule that has the remnants of Bennu in it that it brought back a year ago in last September. So I love these kind of pictures because it's a very scientific thing, yet it's just a warehouse that they've created a clean room out of. And there, when they opened up the canister, all this fell on the floor, Marty. No, it didn't. This is on top of their analysis bench there of what was just extra that wasn't even inside the canister that they got back. And these are stone size, like gravel in the street type of size things have been here. Well, what did they find out? They think they have discovered salty residue left over from an ancient brine on the samples of OSIRIS-REx brought back of asteroid Bennu. Only this is caused by evaporation. It formed minerals rich in sodium, carbon, sulfur, phosphorus, chlorine, fluorine. Finding these ingredients shows that conditions to make them existed earlier and more widely in the solar system than previously thought. Here is the microscopic look of things. Another study of this of Bennu, the harvested, identified several different types of amino acids. These are the proteins essential for life. The findings include 14 of the 20 amino acids that Earth life uses to build proteins. These same amino acids have also been found in meteorites, all right? This $800 million NASA mission, all right, is the most important samples brought back to Earth since the Apollo moon rocks gathered in 1969-62. A half a cup of crushed rocks and dirt has not disappointed researchers in the bounty. In fact, they think that this was part of a larger asteroid, maybe even the dwarf planet Sirius in the asteroid belt. Bennu contains chemicals like ammonia, carbonate salts, as well as organic carbon, suggesting liquid water once ran through these samples that were brought back to Earth, even in the asteroid's extremely cold conditions. It would have been 200 below zero where they harvested. So amazing things that we're learning day by day from the science, Marty, of the NASA spacecraft, the unmanned spacecraft. And there's a good plus for unmanned, money to go to unmanned instead of manned spacecraft. NASA website, I'm getting all kinds of things every day. NASA Webb Telescope, rewriting astronomy. NASA Webb Telescope solves its own riddle. Okay, well, the riddle was about 2 months ago when it said, Webb Telescope has discovered little red dots everywhere in the early solar universe. The Webb Telescope is a time machine like all telescopes. It is looking back at the earliest galaxies formed. This is a photograph that only the Hex bright object, that's a star. There's one right here below me. There's another one there. The rest of these are galaxies, okay? And they're all shapes and sizes, but in the background are these little tiny red galaxies are back maybe 12 billion years in time. When the early solar system, if the Big Bang started at 15 billion years, these are being seen at 13 billion years ago. Very puzzling, because the models of astrophysics, with all the intelligent men like Einstein, have come up, and Hubble and others have come up with that the universe is expanding at a constant rate, every direction the same rate. And Webb has just found that that's not true in certain areas it's looking. It's also found out that galaxies were forming earlier than we thought even stars could form. And these little red galaxies, Webb didn't know what these were, but Webb is solving its own mysteries it created, was a headline. Remember the little red dots? They seem too big to exist in the early universe, and maybe theory couldn't account for them. It turns out they may be a new class of galaxy containing growing supermassive black holes. Because these little red dots, and that's what they call them, LRDs, are so distant, they hadn't been discovered prior to the Webb telescope. The Hubble telescope couldn't look back in time that far. All right, if they were there, we couldn't resolve them. First spotted in the first 6 months of science operations, a large number were recently found, and it's in as they look back at other data that was archived, which they do all the time. Once they discover something, they go back and look and see if we can find it in earlier photos of this. So another discovery by the Webb, constantly finding things that we didn't think could exist or were there. And it's just amazing that launched 2 years ago in December, that is bringing back such fabulous results. Well, what's this, Marty? Not the Earth. That's an artist's conception of what Mars may have looked like 4 billion years ago. In the early days of the solar system, we think Mars had water. After everything stabilized, a lot of debris was still smashing into each other. Just look at the hard bodies like the moon. The Earth had water. Mars probably had water. And we sent 2 spacecraft to find the water. And here is Curiosity. Everyone forgets about Curiosity because Perseverance is in its 3rd year. But Curiosity landed in November 2012, so it's 12 years on the surface of Mars, climbing Mount Sharp in Gale Crater. And here was another headline: possibilities for microbial habitability found by Curiosity. Well, this is the car-sized rover. It found evidence of quite hospitable environs on Mars. All right. And am I going to show that one for? Yeah, no, I'm going to show. Actually, I lied. That's Perseverance. That's not Curiosity. I'm using Perseverance first here. Because there's Percy. They look pretty much identical. Look at the more white on Perseverance. When I show you 10 years more on Mars with Curiosity, it'll be definitely coated more. They take this selfie by an arm. There's a camera on another arm that it shoots its own selfie. Look at the striated layers of rock in the back. That only happens when you have sediment by water piling on top of each other. Everybody knows that. So it's sitting in an area that was once a lake. And here's where Perseverance landed at the bottom, and it's going up Jezero Crater. And what this is, Marty, is it looks like the New Orleans Delta. All right. If you could take the water off of the New Orleans Delta, there it is right there, where see up at the top, the ancient inlet river channel came down and deposited fluvian deposits, they call it, flow of rocks and so forth. And this is why we landed Perseverance there. It hasn't found any outright skeletons or evidence of microbial life yet, but it is picking up and putting interesting specimens in test tubes. And those test tubes were to be picked up by in the next 5 years, but they're not going to be able to do it for at least 10 years, pick these test tubes up, which I think is very sad. because there's 2, 4, 6, 8 test tubes. I call them test tubes. They're about a foot, half a foot long. They're about 8 inches long, and they put samples in there that the rover has deemed might contain interesting things in there from the sedimentary beds they believe they harvested. Also, there's some empty ones, Marty, but it's 20 to get the air. But once again, we sent this to Mars without having in production or even paid for a spacecraft to go and retrieve these. Now they say it's going to cost too much money. They're looking at 2030 to 2035 to go back and get these samples. My gosh, I think better chance that there might be a Chinaman pick them up and put them in his pocket and come back, okay, with it. But the rover's 26th sample, Mars Perseverance finds one-of-a-kind treasure on red planet Silver Mountain. Well, that's going to make me look for sure. Oh, I didn't take a picture of that. All right. It takes a picture of what it puts in there, and the sample was unlike any picked up so far. The robotic explorer picked up a 1-inch rock sample that has textures unlike anything we've seen before, believed to have been thrust up from the red surfaces deep inside after an ancient impact billions of years ago. So these rocks are pieces of the early crust of Mars. So that's fascinating. We may or may not get those. Yes, Marty, question.
Yeah, Dean Babcock is asking, how much longer do you think Curiosity will function?
Curiosity will last maybe another 2 or 3 years for sure. Okay, it has a radioisotope energy on it, and I think that was good for 50 years. But I'll show you in a minute, Dean, what might foil it. It might of its mobility soon in one day. Because this is, imagine being out at the rockiest desert you've ever been out in. If some of you've been in a desert, some of you've been in the mountains. Just think about the mountain trails and so forth, and that are nice and done for you to go through. And then think of these rovers going over unknown territory. Good question, Dean. I'll find the exact answer for that for you tomorrow or the next day, as I'm also going to answer some of your other questions. Here's an artist's conception of how we would bring those tubes back to Earth. You got to land something there that's got a rocket on it to shoot it back to Earth. And the rocket's got to be powerful enough to escape the 1/3 gravity of Mars. And this is just a panorama that was done before Perseverance landed on Mars. There is Curiosity. Okay. Look at right on my shoulder there. Look at that wheel. Look at the chip out of that wheel there. Now, we knew the wheels were chipping away and getting degraded. Now, this thing weighs a couple tons, I think. It is a lot of, it's going over just an alien world of terrain. And look at all of the dust that's settled on that camera on the top up there. Look at the dust on that camera on the top up there. Here's where Mars Curiosity landed inside a Gale crater, and it's making its way up the side of the crater there. All right, which is way cool. That green area, it's already journeyed up most of that green area there. But possibility for microbial habitat. Car-sized Curiosity spotted climbing up the mountain there, and what it found, and there is another shot of Curiosity. Okay, I love these. These are the hazard cams underneath there that actually take pictures of the hazards to go. And you see the wheels aren't touching that much on there. And look at how just the weight, the movement of it, the pieces are clipped out. Now, Marty, this thing is crawling, okay? It is just moving just tediously slow. I mean, if I'm moving my hand this fast like this, that's probably about the amount that the wheel's moving, okay? But yet, they can go about 300 feet a day. And Let me get the full view there of that. So what has Perseverance found? These. Here's 3 different pictures. This is showing you an area of about a foot, or about a yard. Let's say each one of these is a yard, and you're seeing in there current flows and ripples on the current flows, like you would see at the bottom of a stream. And the rippling effect on the bottom, look at those ripples there in the center there. That excited scientists last week. Here again, ripples in the preserved soil of Mars there that was once covered in water. Okay. So once harboring bounties of water, the red planet gradually lost its insulating atmosphere, in particular to effects of solar radiation and a weakened magnetic field, we think, okay? And my last image of the day is just a spectacular image. This is Curiosity going up the sharp mountain. It landed way back down in here somewhere. And look at the layering everywhere you see. The only way you get that is water and sedimentary layers of evaporation and filling it up and it going down to different levels. Well, we think that a lot has to do with the weakened magnetic field, why it lost its water and its atmosphere. Millions of years, Mars had lakes, moist clays of river deltas. That's where Perseverance is. They're actual clays that have been dried up. And we hope to bring back those samples in the 2030s because we think that they could potentially show evidence of past surface life on Mars. But even if Martian life didn't dwell on the surface, it's possible that life thrived or even thrives today deep beneath the ground, shielded from the extremes of the callous deserts and the pummeling radiation. That is the radiation without the thick atmosphere that we have is just like a microwave oven on the surface there. So, well, hope that you all enjoyed a trip around the solar system a little bit and hope that I scared you enough that this could be a real scenario someday where we are at a level 5 alert on the chart that is telling us, what was that level there? I forgot about that level. That's dumb of me. The asteroid system, the Torino scale. Looking for the Torino scale here. And that's a very real thing that we've had around for about 20 years now. And to assess the threat of these near-Earth objects that do hit the Earth, but the small ones, the size of a car or something like that, burn up in the atmosphere. And look, we have 70% ocean, so we don't see half the stuff that hits the Earth. Okay. And we've got the USS LKA asking why NASA no longer discusses the nuclear engine rocket vehicle application technology. I don't know why. NERVA was a great program and still could be resurrected. I believe that nuclear fuel is the only way we'll really get to Mars because I don't think humans are adapted right now to be confined in a spaceship for 9-month journey there and 9 months back and maybe a half a year on an alien planet. So we need to get there quicker and more efficiently and set up the nuclear energy. Nuclear energy can be safe and clear. Thank you for bringing that up there. So Marty, thank you for a wonderful show today. Where did I put all of our guests' names on there? You handed it to me. I think I mentioned everybody. If not, Dean Babcock, thanks for watching. Yippee Ki-Yay's watching. Kevin Rail, I mean. He's back in Mississippi. And Michigan. Yeah, Michigan's back in Michigan. Robert Law in Dundee, Scotland. Tom Celentano in Connecticut. We got a Connecticut birthday tomorrow you'll be wanting to check out. Cliff Watson, Dean Babcock, Gene Doug Forrest, Steve Jokums, Mitch Rothman. We got your item in the mail today, Mitch, from you and your lovely wife, Paula. Thank you very much. Carlton Bailey, hello, buddy. And hope to see you soon, Carlton. So, and the next time you see one of those Starlink satellites go up on that Falcon 9 rocket, bunches of them are coming down. And we need to keep our eye on that because that could create something, this experiment in the atmosphere that we might not be up for right now. So we'll see. So we're lining up some guests this week, and we're lining up the shuttles of the month of February. And hey, you know I'm going to have something for Valentine's on Friday, Marty. So be prepared for that. So until next time, I thank you all for watching. Thank you, Marty, for a great Streamlabs job today. And I hope all of you stay curious with me as I'm Mark Marquette, and I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.